as well, so it's not
Recording is on.
So, okay, so I'm gonna also turn on my webcam. Can you all see me properly? So, perfect. So, welcome back to lesson number 2 on the JavaScript module regarding Stackademic and this great initiative. Again, congratulations to all of you for making this far. We are basically the same number live as the last time, which makes me very happy. I know that some of you have completed the homework because some of you wrote to me and on Discord in the private chat. So at this point, you should, open your student's diary and just check lesson number 1. What are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about modifiers of flow. So basically, we're going to build a new level of complexity in our program. So we're going to write conditions, loops, and also the switch statement, and a special mention to the ternary operator. So let's start now. And as you can remember, as I mentioned last time, you have the student's diary, so make sure to check that out. For this lesson, you can still use lesson number 1 starter files. So if you go on starter files, I will share them with you right now. JavaScript lesson number 1, and I will share that with you in the chat. Okay, perfect. So one thing to note is that you're right, guys. I didn't specify that properly last time. I'm going to show you my notion again. I didn't specify to you correctly how I was switching between environments. That's because I code every day in my job. So really knowing some shortcuts is very useful. So I just switch very fast between windows. But I realized that some of you lost themselves in this kind of switch. So I just want to show you how I run our JavaScript examples even better. So I have, as mentioned, I have a Mac. So I just go on my lessons folder. You can see I have JavaScript. I go on lesson number 1. You can see we have the files that we created last time. You can download them from the GitHub link I sent you. And we have an index.html. We have a script and a style.css. You can see how cool is that on Mac you got the folders giving you a preview of what's in the file. So for example, this is what our web page will look like. I just opened the index.html. Okay, super cool. And then, of course, I want to open my favorite editors of choice, which is Visual Studio Code. And I hope that some of you have found my extensions useful and downloaded my extension package. And I just opened the folder with Visual Studio Code. So I just drop lesson 1 here. Just give it a little second to, jump and start our project. So that's how I start my environment. Again, we have our index.html file, like last time, our script. You remember what async does, and then we have our script. Again, some of you also wrote to me, you didn't include ESLint or Prettier in your extension package. Well, because that was intentional, and we're going to talk about them Friday in details. I really wanted to take you step by step on how to do that. So, I can also show you some cool configuration for ESLint. So just a quick check, is everything clear for you? And is my voice clear? Okay. Some of you told me that my voice was lagging. I can hear my voice properly. So, because I have my microphone, okay. So I'm going to start again now with the next concept. So again, if you want then to see how I see my modifications that I do on the JavaScript file, I can now bring alert lesson number 2, go on your open Windows on your favorite browser, and I hit the refresh shortcut. So lesson number 1. Usually I don't do that manually. I just hit Command R, or if you're on Windows, it should be Control R to refresh the page. I think you can also do that with something like F5 button. So, okay, let's start once more. Once again, is my voice clear? Is everything clear to you? Just drop it. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about modifiers of flow because we are trying to constantly make our program less and less boring. We want to make more and more stuff. So last time we discovered how to create a variable, how to print data on the console, and we're going to use those concepts that we learn today. So make sure that if you're watching this lesson from YouTube, you go check them out on this academic channel. And we're going to build some complexity in our programs. We're going to modify the flow of our program. So basically, what I mean by flow is how the program executes. So right now it's pretty, linear because we can have console.log first instruction and console.log second instruction. And if I print, you can see that these instructions are executed linearly. So, the program is executing from top to bottom. And we want to change some things. Maybe we want to repeat some instruction or not execute some of them. So I had the intention of talking about type conversion and coercion in this lesson, but we did in last one. So just to recap, you remember that type conversion means converting a type from, going from one type to another in an explicit manner. So const to number my string. And
Piero, can you increase the size of your code editor, please?
Sure. Can you see proper?
Yeah, that's way better. Thank you.
Thank you. And we can print that number. And you can see that actually a number. Remember that strings are printed in black in the console. And that's type conversion. Just so I'm going to give a quick recap while type conversion is done actually implicitly. So I can have my sum. You will remember this example. And I have 10 plus 5, which is not 15, as you will remember, because in this case, the number is being coerced to string. So my sum is my sum. And you can see a black meaning a string, 105. So that's a concept very important, and you will see that now why. So in JavaScript, the flow of our program often wants to be changed because maybe we want, as mentioned, to do something more than once, or we want to perform an action just if the user, just based on a certain condition. Think about, for example, in my daily job, I work with a concept called permissions. So maybe you can't create a new entity in the application or a new network because we manage Wi-Fi in the application I work for if you don't have admin permission, or for example, you can't create a login page if you first don't create a network. So can you see this recurrency in the term of do something if something happens? And that's actually what is possible to do in JavaScript. So, for example, let's make a tribute to the Italian culture. Oh, sorry if my eye is a little, I got shampoo in my eye yesterday. So for example, I'm Italian, and suppose we're writing like an Italian recipe program, and I want to know if I can make pasta. So I have my variable and has spaghetti. It's very cliche, but you remember that one of the primitive types in JavaScript is Boolean. So we're going to have true. Now, I want to print on the console, you can make pasta if I have spaghetti. Otherwise, I don't want to print anything. Since we're using a condition, the keyword to do this is very, clear. It's pretty much semantic. So we use if condition, and the condition goes here, and I'm going to write as spaghetti. And console.log, you can make pasta. I'm going to explain to you better what's happening now. First of all, you can see that this value is printed. So what is happening here? we are printing some code based on some condition using the if statement. The syntax for the if statement is the keyword if. A condition, this condition could be literally anything. For example, is 10 bigger than 1? You can see that the data is still printed. Or really, like is 10, but I don't want to show you too many operators for now. Literally everything, anything that produces an expression can be considered, can be put inside of the condition part. And then here is the code that we want to run only if this condition is equal to true. So let me show you an example of this not happening. What if I enter false and I run this program again? Can you see that nothing is being printed? Well, because this condition is not true. So this block of code is not running. Why is this condition not true? Well, because, and that's why type coercion is so important, because when you put an expression inside of the condition part of the if statement, that expression is, the result of that expression is coerced to Boolean. So it will either be true or false. So if I say, for example, let me give you an example. So, okay. My age equals 22. And I want to check if I am underage, you know, or something like a drinking application. You are underage. Okay, so what is the condition that I'm going to put here? So if my age is less than 18, I'm going to print you are underage. So basically, my age here is 22. 22 is minor, is less than 18. And this whole expression actually evaluates to false. And this evaluation to false actually doesn't make the block statement run. So I hope that's clear for you right now, that here we put a condition and basically the expression that I put inside of a condition evaluates either to true or false. Does that sound clear to you right now, chat? Yes, clear. Okay, perfect. So as mentioned, the expression evaluates to either true or false. So really, again, an expression is anything that produces a value. So really, we can put anything here. One very famous example is I have const my number, which is 10, and I can put an expression something like my number. Okay, let's go a little bit more complex. So what is happening here? Can you remember that last time I showed you the modulo operator? Basically, this tells you like the rest of an arithmetic operation. So if you divide 10 by 2, you don't have any rest, you know, because you can multiply 2 for 5 and you get exactly 10. So we are checking here that that value is true. So we're checking basically that the number is even. And if that is true, you can say my number is even. Let me check. Let me run the program again. 10 is even, so that's correct. Okay, so let's explain something more about conditions. As mentioned, again, any expression that you want can be put here. One thing to note, some values which are not necessarily false will evaluate, will not make run the condition for you. What do I mean by that? Okay, suppose that I just write 0. I put my number here. And can you see that nothing is being run here? Do you know why? because there are some specific values in JavaScript that when are put inside the condition part of the if statement doesn't make the block run, because those values automatically evaluates to false. So JavaScript said, I don't care, this value is false. And of course, you will have read about this so many times. These values are called falsy values, and these are falsy values. False, null, undefined, empty string, 0, or not a number. Of course, these also include something like -0. So what does that mean? That when you have one of these values inside the condition part of your if statements, your condition body won't run. And you can see that happening here. You might have said, okay, what if I enter 10? And I just change this. You entered a number. It's printing it. So, you might experiment and say 12. Okay, let's do that again. 12 is running, but as soon as you enter 0, JavaScript says, no, this is a falsy value. Your condition is not going to run. And this is so. Let's check that. You see, nothing is being printed. And as mentioned, this is the same for 0, none, undefined. You see, nothing is being run, null or false, of course. So if my condition, my number, or let's say my condition is false, of course. I mean, this is pretty basic. Nothing gets printed. So is that clear to all of you? None means not a number. So you can get not a number, for example, if you use the number past. Remember that I show you this function. If you put here something that is not a number, you should be able to see that none is being printed. Let me show you that. Not a number, because basically JavaScript is telling you I can't convert to number something which is not a number. So it's very explicit also in that sense. But let's get back to our conditions. So let's write one more and show you the difference in a very important operator. Because you see, last time we saw math operators, something like 1 + 2 -1. -1, the divider. You also have some logic, some conditional, other type of operator for comparison operators. That's the name. Sorry, I got a little bit confused. Which are, for example, checking if a value is bigger than another one, or if it's equal. So 10 bigger than 2. Let me put condition here. That is true. Let me run this. That is true, because this condition evaluates to true, because the result of this expression is cursed to Boolean, and of course true, because 10 is actually bigger than 2. If I enter 20 here, you can see that nothing runs, because this expression is cursed to Boolean false, and as you know, falsy values don't make your condition block being executed. Another type of operator you can use is the equal. There are two types of equal operators in JavaScript: condition and const condition. Condition 2 equal 10. Equal. You can see double equal, triple equal. What is the difference between these two? Well, let me see if I can show that to you with a very nice example. Condition 1 is true. I'll explain that. Let me write that first for you. Condition 2, console.log, condition 2 Always, you can see I don't put semicolons. Okay, so can you see that both these both these if statements blocks are running? So basically condition 1 is true, 10 equal 10, and condition 2, 10 equal 10. Well, you might have noticed that there's something wrong with this, because how can 10 as a number be equal to 10 as a string? What's the problem with JavaScript right now? Well, the thing is, when you use double equality, double equal operator, this operator coerces, so converts the type of one of the operand, and then compares them. And in the case of number and string, what this operator is doing is basically converting 10 as a number to 10 as a string, and then comparing them. And so basically this becomes, for the operator, the first 10 becomes a string, the second 10 stays the same. And so it says, oh yeah, they're equal, they're both strings, because, you know, I cursed the first one, because kind of like when you sum a number and a string, you curse one of the two to string. In this case, you curse one of the two to string again, and then compare them. The triple equal operator, however, does not do that. So if I do this, it will say, hey, 10 for me is just a number. I'm not going to convert that to a string. And then I'm going to compare it to 10 as a string. Are those two equal? No. So now you will see that condition number 2 does not run. You will just see condition 1 is true on screen. And you can see that happens. So be very careful when checking equality in JavaScript, because using the double equal operator might give you some problem. Actually, in the project I work for, this operator is forbidden, because you never know what type of coercion it might occur. Always, in my opinion, use triple equality check. You don't want to, you know, in your code, you want to avoid hidden things happening, and coercion is one of those hidden things that might cause you problem and might make something happen inadvertently. So please always use triple equal operator. Chat, is that clear to you? Yes. Freddy, can't see the presentation, only audio. You should click on my tile, I guess. So Ibrahim said this is opaque as a concept, but don't worry, we're going to explore that deeper. And of course, I will give you homework to check those concepts better. One thing that I wanted to show you is that, as mentioned, if a condition is not true in JavaScript, this block of code simply does not run. So 10 bigger than 1. Let's use that again. Condition 1 is true. Okay, so nothing is, oh, I heard a noise. Decrement is parent. Okay, so sometimes in JavaScript, you not only want to say, if this condition is true, I want this to happen, but you also want to say, if this condition is true, I want this to happen, and if it's not, something else happens. And again, JavaScript provides us a very semantic way of doing that, which is with else statement. It's very similar to the if statement. It doesn't need a condition, actually, because it joins to an if. So for example, let's delete this, and let's say, if I'm gonna make it a little bit more complex. Prompt, enter a number. If my number, remember that this is the condition to check if something is even in JavaScript. So if my number is even, we print your number is even, but I want to say, hey, it's odd if the number actually is not even. So how do I do that? Else console.log your number is odd. So you see that else doesn't need a condition because the condition is already in the if statement. So it just joins the if. In fact, you can't have an else just by itself. What is this else linked to? You want else to happen just if there is a condition not happening. So just remember that else always has to have its own if to be joined to. Let's check the program. Let's run it. Enter a number, 10. Your number is even. Again, what if I enter 3? Your number is odd. So that's pretty correct. So hope that sounds reasonable to all of you guys, that now we are scaling it even more, and we're saying like, okay, we can say, if a condition is true, I want to do this. If it's not, do something else. Else is the keyword that you have to keep in your mind. Let me check the chat. Is everything clear to you? Thumbs up, perfectly. Okay, so one thing to note more is that, again, and JavaScript taught also about this, and this is something that exists in every program, in every language, basically if-else statement, condition are really important, is that sometimes you want to scale even more your condition. So you want to say, if this condition is true, do this. If it's not, do something else, or maybe do this other thing. I'm gonna show you a concept to let you understand that you can chain multiple else in your statements. So for example, const time of you can see that I'm using camel case here. Time of the day. Okay, so what I want to do here is saying that if time of the day is greater than 20, I want to print console.log good evening. So that's pretty, clear. But if it's, less than, okay, so else console.log good morning. So here I can say something like, enter the time of the day, it's 21, good evening. Again, it's 9 a.m. in the morning. I don't report number as AM, PM, because in Italy, that's not how we do it. I don't know if that's the same around all the world, because I just know that UK and the USA do that. So good morning. So what if I want to print good afternoon if the time is between, let's say, 2 p.m. in the afternoon and 8 p.m. in the evening? So what if I want to add one more console.log here, and I want to say there is one more condition that I want to check for? Well, you can do that by using a combination of else and if, which is this. So basically you can say else if time of the day, we wanted to say, let's say 14. Good afternoon. Else console.log. Check that. It's 21. Again, if it's 15, good afternoon. Again, if it's 9 in the morning, it's good morning. So what is happening here? Basically, our condition is running like this. So our program is coming here, and it says, okay, so is the time of the day, let's suppose that we entered 21 here, okay? So if time of the day 21 is bigger than 20, console.log. So this condition is true, and these other two conditions can't be true because they are the opposite of that. Those are in the else statement. So this code simply does not run, and good evening is being printed. Now, what happened if I enter 15, well, 15 is bigger than 20. No, this code does not run. Is 15 bigger than 14? Yes, this code does run. So we see good afternoon being printed on screen. What if I enter 9? Is 9 bigger than 20? No. Is it bigger than 14? No. So in the else statement, I just say if none of these conditions are true, just enter good morning. And so this is kind of on the logical step, because, you know, if it's not after 20 in the evening, yeah, I know that it's not evening. If it's not after 14, which is 2 p.m., I know it's not afternoon. So it must be morning. You know, it must necessarily be morning at that point. So hope that sounds clear to you. If else statements are complex beasts because they're quite, you know, boring to read, and they can imagine that we add more and more condition here, that will be super, super complex. Let me check the chat. Does that sound clear to you, everybody? Yes, thank you so much. So thank you so much for your reactivity in the chat, by the way. I wanted to show you one more trick with conditions. You might get this asked in interviews, and there are so many articles in JavaScript related to this feature because it's one of the new features in JavaScript, I mean, relatively new. So when you have an if-else statement, as the one that I showed you earlier, so for example, I have const, let's get back to the const my number equal prompt, what is your number? My number. So if my number is even, we print console.log even, otherwise console.log odd. So this is the example that we saw earlier. You can shorten this instruction with a new kind of operator. So this operator is called the ternary one, and basically it goes like this. So condition, if that is true, run this instruction, true instruction, otherwise or else, false, like an else instruction. So I kind of realize this example is, okay, so let's rewrite this differently. And let's say that const result equal, and we say my number. So we enter the condition here. If my number is even, if that is true, so this is like kind of the if statement block that goes here. If that is true, we get in even, sorry, else odd. So you might be wondering that why you didn't put console.log. Well, because when you use this ternary operator, you can't put instructions here in the if, in the true or false block. You just put values which are stored inside this variable. So you always use it in combination with the variable. So now inside of our result variable, we have result is result. And result is even. So, you know, you can't just come here and put console.log, and because that value has to be stored here. So that's how you use it. So this is kind of a cool trick to store and results of conditions instead of a variable and use them, you know, kind of to shorten and operate, shorten a condition. So hope that's clear to you. This is kind of, as mentioned, a JavaScript interview question. So keep that in mind for good. Is that clear to you, everybody? Just drop a yes. Perfect. I'll take a sip of water. Thank you for the compliment, Alaya. That's cool. That's a very cool operator. That's true. So I realize that we are scaling very fast with the complexity of our JavaScript program. So let's do like this. I'm going to show you another modifier of flow, which are loops, and they're super important. So I wanted to show you today condition and loops. And then in the end, I'm going to show you one more trick with conditions, okay? Because I just don't want to overload your head with conditions right now. So we saw that our programs run linearly, and then we said that we can say, okay, run this instruction or don't run that based on a condition. But sometimes we just want to do something again and again. So let me give you an example. So suppose that I wanted to write my even odd program for every number from 1 to 10. So let's get back to the logic I had earlier. I'm just doing Command Z right now to get back to it. So suppose that I want to do this for every number from 1 to 10. And I say my number, this is going to be even, of course, because 1 is even. Odd, sorry, I confused myself. So 1 is odd. If I do that for 2, it's even. But suppose that I want to get output a list. So saying for every number, so my number is even, or my number is odd. Remember to put the comma here. 2 is even. Okay, but what if I want to print something like 1 is even, 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, you know, something like number 2, and I put 2. Let me show you. Really, I just want to show you the kind of result that I would like to get. So 1 is odd, 2 is even. What if I want to get this for every number up to 10? It's quite boring to do this linearly. So writing the same JavaScript, you know, what should we do? Should we write this for every number and just modify the number so my number to become 3, 4, 5? You can see that, again, this idea of doing something again and again recurs in our mind. And that's when loops come, you know, forward to help us. So basically a loop in JavaScript, basically in every programming language, because this is like a mandatory concept to have in a coding language. To loop just means to perform, you know, a set of operations again and again until a condition is true. Let me show you. I'm going to show you directly the for loop because it's the most used. To be honest, I've never seen while loops in codes I've written in on a professional level. So basically, to write our first loop, let's create something like this. This is going to be more complex, guys. Really, don't get discouraged if you don't get this on the first time, because I will give you documentation. You can rewatch the video. I'm gonna write it first, and then explain to you what is happening. Console.log. Oh, sorry, I can't see. You see? Can you see how I printed all the numbers from 0 to 9? I did that because I used a loop. So basically, a loop, as mentioned, lets you perform the same operation, which in our case is printing again and again until a condition is true. So when you write a loop using the for loop, you have the condition, which is this one, an initial value, which is called the iterator. So basically we're saying starting with a value called e, let's call it number because it's better. So starting from a value number which is equal to 0, and we want to say until, like perform this instruction until this condition is true. So again, starting from a number which is 0, if number is less than 10, print the number. So basically what is happening here linearly is number is equal to 0, 0 is less than 10, I print 0. And then we have this instruction, which basically is an operator called increment, which just increments the value of a value. So if you have constant value equal 3 plus console.log, I'm going to comment this out. So let me. Okay, so yeah, I forgot this is an illegal operation, but anyway, let's not confuse you even more. So basically, again, until this condition is true, as long as this condition is true, perform this operation. And what this instruction does here, basically increments of 1 the value of number. So basically, again, let's do it again. Number is equal to 0. Is number less than 10? Yes. Instruct this operation. The block of the for statement ended, so increment number. So number becomes 1. And for the second iteration, is number less than 10? Yes. Print number. Again, number becomes number plus 1. So number now has become 2. Is 2 less than 10? Yes. Print 2. Number now becomes 3. So I hope that kind of becomes clear to you now. Let me put that here again. Let me check the chat. So chat, is that clear to you? What kind of operation we're performing? Yes, yes. Perfect. So can you remember the example that I showed you earlier when we want to check for every number from 1 to 10 if that is even or odd? So let's basically destruct this program and say, what is the thing that I want to do again and again? And I want to check if a number is even or odd. And what numbers do I want to check? All the numbers from 1 to 10. So basically that means, every number that's less than 10 and that is bigger than 1, I want to check it. So can you see how this can be translated into a loop for this kind of operation that we want to perform? So again, let's write a new loop. And I want to check the numbers from 1 to 10. So I'm going to say my number starts at 1. I'm going to delete this so it doesn't confuse you. Number equal 1. So starting from 1. And, we want to get up to 10. So the number has to be less than, let's make number from 1 to 9. I'm going to show you why later. From 1 to 9, so the number has to be less than 10. And then, as always, our increment, this has to be a number. So, starting from 1, as long as the number is less than 10, we want to run the code inside of this block. And then, of course, to update this number, we enter this instruction, which basically says, okay, at the end of each block execution, the number becomes number plus 1. So let me write, if our number, and we have seen this condition earlier, is even, console.log log number is even, else log number is odd. So let me see the result. 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, and that's correct. So actually we reached our result. So that's great. So again, when this code runs, we start from 1. As long as 1 is less than 10, we run this instruction. So 1 is 1 even. That's true, because 1 modulo 2 equals 0. So we print this instruction, and then we get back to run this code again. Why? Because we incremented number. The condition is still true because number then becomes 2, and 2 is less than 10. So we do this again and again until number will eventually become 10. So we will have something like this, and 10 is not less than 10. So this whole code does not run, and we are out of our loop. So 2 things to note are that really you can put any kind of instruction to modify number here. So I could even put like number plus equal to, which basically is the same as writing let number equal number plus 2. So this is the same as, is a shorthand version of saying add 2 to this number and assign the value to number itself. So you see that now we have less value because at the end of each loop, so for example, number is 1, number is less than 10, yes, we run this code, and then we say, okay, now number becomes 3 because we add 2 to it. Is 3 less than 10? Yes. We run this code again. And then number becomes 5 because we add 2 to it. So is 5 less than 10? Yes, again. And so this goes on and on. So you could also use this loop and the system that we showed to you now to just really do anything that you want. So let me check if that is true to you. Ibrahim is telling you can do that with other operators too, and that's true. You can do that for the multiply operators. I will show that to you in the future. Drop a yes if everything sounds clear to you right now. Yes, perfect. So let me see, let me check the time. Oh, we've been ready for 45 minutes. That's great. So one example that I wanted to show you are both one related to condition and one again for loops. So I was, for example, can you remember that earlier I said that Artrun is kind of so in the future because I wanted to talk, for example, and make an example on Celsius and Fahrenheit. So let me do something like this. I'll then explain that to you. Somebody has unmuted the microphone. Can you please mute it? Thanks. So this example, as you may have guessed, prints all the number from 50 to 100 because it will print numbers starting from 50 as long as, sorry, all the number from 50 to 99 because as long as the number is less than 100. Why did I take this range of numbers? Well, because there is a weird conversion between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So kind of like, I think that 70 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius, something like that. So for example, let me do something like this. I want to convert every number from 50 to 99 pretending it's a temperature in Fahrenheit, and I want to convert it to Celsius. So I want to say something like temperature Celsius is, and then we print temperature here. I gotta check how that is done because I don't remember the conversion. Fahrenheit to Celsius. Let me check. Yeah, I also care that I'm showing you that I'm searching for this thing right now, because honestly, of course, I can't know everything. So suppose that I'm writing a real code, some real program, a real world application, and I have to do this kind of operation, and I don't know the formula. I just search for it. There's nothing wrong with that. So I just write it. Let me search for that. I'm just really just Googling and see what I can find. Okay, so apparently this is the formula. So you get a temperature, you subtract 32, and then you multiply the result for 5 divided by 9. So let me say that constant to Celsius equal, let me change this so it's clearer to you, temperature. So we have our temperature minus 32 multiplied by 5. Okay, I think this is this. What is this block? This yellow. Okay. I'm removing some parents that are, some parentheses that are not necessary. Oh, it's being added anyway. Why is that happening? Sorry, guys. I think that my code is adding something, even if I don't want it. I think it's Visual Studio Code because I got something called a linter plugged in. Minus 32, that's the formula. Multiply. That's it. Temperature. Let me check that out. Yeah, I'm having some. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I want to see if this converted the temperature well. Yes, so we did it. Sorry, my Visual Studio Code was applying some parentheses, even if I didn't want to. Probably it's something that I have set up in the linter. I will explain that to you what that is Friday. So you can see that basically we took every temperature, we applied the to Fahrenheit formula, to Celsius formula. So we subtracted 32 and multiplied by 5 divided by 9. And eventually we got the Celsius temperature, and we print that for every iteration of the loop. So to Celsius, so 50 degrees to Celsius is 50 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius is 10 degrees, and that goes on and on. So I actually thought the conversion was a little bit different, but apparently 100 degrees Fahrenheit is 37 degrees Celsius. So yeah, so it's not that hot when it's 100 Fahrenheit. I have the formula in the chat. So, oh, thanks, Ibrahim. So is that clear to you? Right now, guys, just write to me in the chat. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your congratulations, Christy, for your compliments in the chat anyway. And okay, so I want to show you one last thing before we proceed with some questions, and that is that when you're writing conditions, and that's the trick that I want to show you, when you're writing conditions, sometimes you're comparing a lot of values. Sorry if your background noise, I live with other people, so So for example, const day of the week. Day of the week equal prompt what day is today. I want to say, so if day of the week is Monday, let's say something like, I'm going to rest. Else if day of the week equal to Wednesday, I'm going to say something like the log lesson with Piero. And again, we can add another else if, let's say, day of the week equal to Saturday. We can say something like console.log, it's movie night. Else, I have no idea what to do. So basically, we prompt the day, and oh, sorry, I misspelled prompt here, so let's be careful. So if it's Monday, as you know right now, because we learned about condition, I'm gonna print I'm going to rest. If it's Wednesday, lesson with Piero. If it's Saturday, it's movie night. Otherwise, I have no idea what to do. So let's write and say Monday, I'm going to rest. And let's say it's Friday. I have no idea what to do. Cool. Can you see that we are comparing, basically, we are comparing a value against different constants. So we're comparing different values, and we're comparing the odd week against Monday, against Wednesday, against Saturday. This has kind of become boring to code to write. So when you're comparing a value to different constants like this, it's better to use a type of statement which is called switch. So basically, it's not that hard. It's really just a way of writing complicated if-else statements. I'm gonna comment this in case you're wondering how I did this. It's Command K C on Mac, and it should be Control K C on computer. So Command K C, and it comments them. So switch, I want to check. So here I have my condition, the data, the value that I'm comparing, which is day of the week. And I'm saying that case Monday, console.log, we said I'm going to rest. Don't worry, I'm going to explain that to you. Case, we said Wednesday. I don't know if I'm spelling that correctly. lesson with Piero. Once again, one last thing. If it's Saturday, we say console. Let me just copy that. Let's run this program again. Monday, I'm going to rest. Saturday, it's movie night. And we're missing on a condition. I will explain to you why. So basically, the switch statement just does what we saw with this complicated if-else set. So we are comparing one value, day of the week, against a set of constants. So Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Sorry for the noise. And we're just writing, instead of these conditions, so if, we just write case. So if day of the week, the case is that it's Monday, let's read it like that, then do this. So this is kind of the block of the condition. If the case is that day of the week, it's Wednesday, print lesson with Piero. If it's Saturday, print it's movie night. You might be wondering, what is this break keyword? This is necessary between these conditions in switch statements, because if you remove it, I'll show you what's happened. And you see that it printed two values. Why? Because the day is Monday, so it runs this log, but then there is no break, so it just doesn't tell JavaScript, hey, stop, don't run this condition too. So always remember to have a break statement at the end of each case. Otherwise, your condition will just all execute. You can see I can also remove this again. It's Monday, and I get 3 logs now because it just boom, 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 doesn't stop. So that was a sound explanation. One last thing, you might say, hey, but Piero, if I use the switch statement, I'm losing the ability to do else. What if I want to print, I have no idea what to do? You can do that. So instead of just writing else, you use something called default and console.log. No idea what to do. So this is the equivalent of saying else. So you can see also the keyword is pretty semantic. So it's default. So the default, if none of this is true, is I have no idea what to do. So I just print this. You don't need a break statement at the end of this because default always goes at the end. So there is no condition down below to be run. Let me write something like, you see, I wrote a condition that wasn't present anywhere. I just wrote some stupid data, but let's write something more intelligent, like Friday. Friday, day of the week is Friday. It's not the case that it's Monday. It's not Wednesday. It's not Saturday. So it's just, the default is I just print, no idea what to do. And this is how you compare a value against a set of constants. So, this is kind of a better way to write if-else statements with an ending else. So let me check again. Is that clear to you? Perfect. Before ending, one cool thing that I could show you is, because I understand that sometimes it might be hard to follow me because I use some shortcuts, in my daily job, I have to use them. I will show you some cool shortcuts that you can use in Java, in Visual Studio Code, in case you're using it. Const second. These are the most common ones that I use. So let me show you. So I have Command L. Always convert command with control in case you're on Windows. Command L selects all the line. So that's very necessary because I just don't want to go like, oh, delete it. That's boring. Of course, Command Z or Control Z is to undo. Then you have the classic Command X, which is cut, and then the Command B, you paste, or you can do copy, Command C. Super cool. Again, other cool things that I like to do are two. In particular, I don't really use that many shortcuts. I just have my 3 or 4 trusted ones. Another thing that you want to do is if you press Alt or Option, you can move, you see, a line. So I just press Option here, down arrow, and this goes on the second line. Option, again, up arrow, and it goes up of one line. You can also use const. Third, option, up arrow, option down, option up again. You see, that's super, super cool. And one, of course, if you do option right or left, really, nothing happens, to be honest. It just changes between the words. So then I have command left arrow or right arrow. So it basically is beginning or end of a line. Command, which we use control if you're on Windows. Command left, beginning of the line. Command right, end of the line. Super easy. And one last thing, and this is more complicated. It's, let me check because I don't always use this. No, I can't reproduce that. Yes, there it is. So what I'm doing here is Command Option, which on Windows should be Control Alt, down arrow. Can you see this multiple line that I created, this blinking thing? Look what happens if I start pressing delete. You see, the instruction is reproduced on every line. And now I can convert, for example, this variable to let. Super cool. I can even move this, and I can say, I want to change these names and same name. You can see how cool that is. So basically, this is like multi-line modification, and that's something very cool. You can't always do that because you gotta have everything aligned. For example, this let to be able to change them. But when you have the same thing on multiple lines, you can use it. So again, I want to say const instead, just having to go line by line. So hope this will help you. And multi-line cursor, yeah, that's how you call it. So let's do some time for some Q&A. So please, guys, ask me any question that you might want to ask me. Hope you enjoyed the lesson, just to say.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Yay, it's Asaya.
Hi, Asaya, how are you?
Good, good. Happy that my system now is able to get the audio working. I had a question related to the switch statement.
Yes.
You mentioned you showed us both the if-else statement and switch. Is there like a preference in the real-world setting whether developers use either or it can be, preference to the developer? Thanks.
Oh, that's a great question. Well, okay, so the thing is, when you write code on a professional level, and this is also why I really care about the lesson that we're going to do on Friday, people will have different styles of writing their code. So for example, I might prefer if else, and Asaya might prefer a switch statement. So generally, when you're working in a professional level, these kind of things will be reinforced by some internal documentation or tool that will tell you, like, don't use which, prefer if else. That tool is called a linter. We will check it. In general, I mentioned there is no reason why it should be forbidden to you to use the switch statement. So the preferred occasion when you might want to use the switch is if you have a long list of if else, you just use switch. So because it's clearer to read, and it's also clearer to understand immediately what you're going to read, because I just encounter a switch and I say, okay, I know what this person is doing. With an if else, I have to read each condition, so it might be harder. So as I go with switch if that's necessary, and unless you will work in a project where for some reason they prefer to use if else. Hope that answered the question. Next question, if you have one, guys. Ibrahim told me also about Sunil. I have a couple of questions, but I can wait. Well, Sunil, if you want to ask some questions, you can ask them.
Hey, Piero.
Hi.
My name's Sunil. Thank you for that lesson.
Where are you from? Sunil, I'm sorry, but I haven't seen your homework, so I guess you gotta leave academic. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I had just one question. It was two, but you actually answered the question when you were talking earlier, so amazing. Yeah, so hello everyone in Stackademic. I'll stop doing that now. So I had a question. I don't know if you covered it. You may have already covered this, but I noticed when you were increasing the number and you had the 2+ symbols before the variable, I wondered, because I've seen it, that you can also put the plus symbols after the variable, and I wanted to know what is the difference.
Okay, so thank you, Sunil. Even if you did your homework, it's a pleasure to have you here on board. Let me show you. Let me check if I can show that to you. Okay, so let me go here. Let me open a console. No, let's just open it. No. So basically, Sunil was saying that what is the difference between doing this and I'm gonna just, like, for example, we had the variable called number. What is the difference between doing this?
I'm not sure if your screen is tiled again, by the way, so you might need to just.
No, I haven't clicked on anybody.
Okay,
So
cool.
What is the difference between doing this and this? Well, in the case of the for loop, well, the difference is that when you enter the increment operator, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sunil, basically the value of the expression, it's used first and then it's incremented. And then if you do this, the value is first incremented and then used. Let me see if I can see an example.
I believe that's it as well. Can you also, Piero, can you just try and click on your own tab again? Because I think it has changed for other people when they've had to click on your face to bring it back.
Oh, okay. Can you see the bugging window? Yeah, that's a bugging window. Let me stop the sharing for you for a second and then restart it.
As I said, recursion.
Yeah, no, that's the bug I was talking to you about like 2 days ago.
Oh, wow. I've never seen that. That's amazing. I love it. Look, it looks like the notification disappeared into the distance. I don't want to share it anymore because I'm afraid it will happen again. Anyway, the difference, guys, is I will send you an article between having the 2+ sign at the beginning of the expression, like before or after the variable name, is that when you have them after, the variable value is used and then it's incremented. And then if you have them before the variable name, first the variable is incremented by 1 and then it's used. So yeah, Ibrahim is sending some resources in the chat. Ah, interesting. Cool.
So yeah, that's how. Are you satisfied with the answers?
I was just curious. I was just curious because I wondered whether some people may end up seeing the plus symbols or the decrement operator or increment operator after the variable in, say, code that they might see online and might be curious to know what's going on. When
I learned to use C++, I used the increment operator before, because I just saw the book doing that. But really, I never see people doing that. I always see people putting ++ after the variable name.
Interesting. I wonder, I mean, I haven't tested this, but sometimes when you run a loop and it's, say, just printing out a number, you end up sometimes with undefined at the very end. And I wonder whether if you put the operator before the variable, like how you were doing, that would eliminate that undefined appearing at the end. I don't know for definite if that would be the case, but do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I know that happens sometimes. It's because of that, I guess. Because we could. Well, I would like to show you the screen, but I don't know if it's lagging again. Are you ready to see me? An inception of Piero. There we go. I'm gonna stop sharing because thank you, Jitsi. I don't know why that's happening. We had to fix that. But yes, it's because of that, because I checked that like 2 or 3 days ago when I was writing the example for the lesson.
Ah, cool.
So we have, of course, a new student, Sunil. Do you have any other question, everybody? Oh, and then I will tell you another thing about next lessons. Thank you so much, Artron, for your words. If you have a question, you can just raise your hands in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask that. Or you can even write it if that's the case. Is there a homework for this lesson? Yes, I will write it to you at the end of the lesson. And you will be able to do it. Of course, remember to use the student's diary and just, to keep track of your processes. So what I wanted to tell you is next lesson, in my idea, is there are 2 more lessons that we have to do this week. One tomorrow, one Friday, at the same time as we did today. So, and the next lessons will be tomorrow we're really like going higher, and we're going to talk about functions, arrays, and objects. And then Friday, I want to show you how to improve your workflow in JavaScript to be like very efficient, and a general Q&A, about me, because I'm very young and there are some conditions in my life, that some things that happen in my career that I'm sure that I can give you advice and they can be really helpful for you. So do you like the idea of doing these 2 lessons this week, tomorrow and the day after tomorrow at the same time? Would you be available for that? Or do you prefer me to schedule another day? So Chrissy said yes. Chantal, yes. Just drop a yeah. Yeah, perfect. So we will see you tomorrow then for a new lesson, and also Friday. And of course, I'm really hyping this, but don't lose the competition lesson. The students, Sunil, will participate. Will join.
Ibra, stop it. Yes, we know it's 2-0.
2-0. I don't want to win again, because I don't want to be thrown out of Stackademic and JavaScript in plain English.
Yes, I'm sure it'll be 3-0, and then 4-0, and then 5-0, and then 5-1, and then 6-1.
No, but we will read everybody's code, actually. Really make your homework, do your homework, because you will be participants, you will be like main characters in the competition time that we will do next week, because you will actually write code. So that will be great. And so if Piero win count, Piero is so yes. That's
Ibrahim. I reckon Ibrahim's going to become one of our teachers in the future, or some sort of student support or something, because I love how Ibrahim, as you're teaching, he's constantly sharing information into the chat. I love that. It's great.
I wanted to write one more, but you can see that. Let's see. I can. That's it. Do you like that? I missed the block statement.
Well, then it's not going to execute.
Yeah, so actually, I think if you have only one.
If it's on one line, it will.
So you got it wrong, Sunil. Anyway, I'm joking, of course. We all love each other, and it's just playful. So so the lesson ends here, guys. Today, I see some of you are disconnecting. One thing that I want to ask you is, because that helps you both us and you, when you're done with the lesson, share your progress on Twitter, tag us, and share everything that you're doing, because not only you become more visible in the dev community, but also Stackademic becomes more visible. And if Stackademic becomes more visible, everybody's winning on that, because we might get some other free resources offered to us, or some collaborations that can help us to bring more content to you. So
Exactly, that's really important as well. So maybe even bonus points for anybody who shares a new fact or piece of information that they have learned today. If they share it on Twitter and tag Stackademic HQ, feel free to tag Piero as well, of course. So yeah, bonus points for sharing information about what you have learned.
That's true. So also, because, for example, I saw that today Fitz wrote something about, basically he was teaching what he learned about constant-let variables. And that was amazing, because I said, wow, he's sharing something good that he learned. And, so he's also helping others while being helped. I really love that. So feel free to do that and share that. Thank you for interesting thought. Love the humor, the British humor.
Well, you know what, Grace? I thank you so much for that. I love that. That's put a smile on my face, and also as well, Maria as well. Thank you. Super nice, super nice. You're all super nice.
If we ever make some goodies like swag, like hoodies and T-shirts, you will all receive it. We have to make that.
Hey, well, I mean, let's let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No,
and spend $1,000. No, I'm joking, everybody. I'm joking.
I mean, I'm saying this out of gratification, but of course, like, I don't have $1,000 for hoodies too. But
well, do you know what I was thinking earlier on? Like, we could create swag that people could buy, not necessarily students, but people could buy, and that helps to fund Stackademic in a way, like the profits and things like that.
Or we just send you the design. You go to the local T-shirt shop and you say, "I want it like this."
Yeah.
If you want to stop recording, because I think like the lesson ends, and I mean on YouTube they won't care about the swag. I think.
Okay, I'm hitting stop.